This is the Italian Real Estate Podcast, here to help you with the ins and outs and basics of Italian real estate, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Italian Real Estate Podcast. It's a little bit of a different episode today. We're walking around, and we're actually here in Piazza delle Erbe, in the middle of Verona. So hopefully it's not too shaky today. But Marco, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. It's wonderful to be out here in the city with you. I mean, we've had such a fun day so far. This afternoon we've been doing some recording, but we figured while we're here, we may as well also have a quick discussion about what it's like to be here. But to get into it, you're originally from this region, the Veneto. What is your opinion of a city like Verona?
Verona is a city that is famous, of course, everywhere in the world, and is very strategically located in the center of the region. From here, you can get in a lot of interesting places, like the lakes area in northern Italy, but also you have a train station which is connected with a lot of other cities in Italy, important cities like Milan, Padova,
Rome, Naples.
Yeah, you can get
Bolzano
from here. It's a major city, so it gets crowded, as you can see, especially in the summer. So
I'll turn the camera around so you guys can see a little bit. It's going to be, like I said, a little bit of a different sort of episode today, where we're just walking around talking. But you can see, just to interrupt you here also, like, in my opinion, it almost feels a little bit like Venice in the way that it's like super, super touristy.
It gets like very crowded in summer. I have to say that I don't have the same feeling in winter. Mm-hmm. And of course, in the summer, you have to take into account the fact that if you own property in the very center of the city, you will have a lot of tourists. But there are areas of the city that are not as crowded.
Yeah, actually, we may as well just start walking in one of those areas because, sorry to again to interrupt, but when you're on the main pathways here, you can see that you just take a little turn and all of a sudden you're on a much quieter street. Granted, you do get some of the noise from what's coming around you, but again, there's access to some very different types of experiences all within the same city.
Yeah, and I'd say that, like you just said, there are areas right near to the center that are very quiet. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that is still a city that is livable. It's not like bigger cities like Rome or Florence or Naples or Milan, where it's crowded everywhere.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get out from the city center, it's already much more quiet and livable.
Yeah, even like I've walked around this city at night and I feel fine. Like, I don't really think about it. Granted, there might be parts of the city that I personally wouldn't be the most excited to go to. But generally speaking, again, we just did a big circle actually, so you can see behind me. This is the other side of Piazza delle Erbe. And overall, do you have access to things here? Yes. Do you have access to a wonderful, beautiful Italian city? Most definitely. And then actually even cultural events, as we'll be getting to later on in the episode, down at the big event venue that you find here.
Yeah, and you have the Arena di Verona, which is, of course, very famous, and a lot of very important events also at a national level are held here. I can, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the 2 or 3 events at least earlier this year where the President of the Republic joined for the event.
Wow.
I think one was the Aida, so it's a very famous opera event. And then was another one where the public institutions came to join for the event. And so I'd say it's a city where you can find a lot of things. You have everything you need, but at the same time, you don't feel like the feeling that you have in cities that are like bigger and where, it's probably too much.
Yeah. No, it's a nice balance here. It's nice to be able to get out. You have restaurants, you have cafes, you have tourist attractions, a lot of shopping, a lot of shopping. I mean, even you see brand names here that you'll be very familiar with just about anywhere in the world. But then you also do have some of the more local Italian brands. And then even if you get out of the center and go to, say, another area of town, you have more individually owned locations like in Veronetta, Borgo Trento, San Zeno. These are also other areas where you can have access to the city, but not be in the thick of it, especially if you want to have access to the city, but you want to be maybe a little bit more relaxed, a little quieter, in a place where maybe, I hate to put it this way, but like real life kind of happens. Granted, real life happens here as well, but it's also, as you see, we're getting back onto the main tourist drag, and it's quite busy. Maybe I'll show a little bit again around. But it just keeps on going and going and going. So then, Marco, since we're talking about this on the Italian Real Estate Podcast, let's talk about real estate. What is actually involved if you want to purchase property here? Can you find property? Is it expensive? I mean, how does it compare also to other parts of the nation?
So, of course, buying a property in a major city like Verona, famous worldwide, it's going to be fairly expensive. There are areas of Italy where the cost of properties is more expensive, but here you're definitely in the higher end. So you can expect to have to pay a fairly high amount for a property in the city center. But like you said before, there are areas in Verona where prices are a little bit lower, both for rentals and for purchases, that are right across, right outside of the center. But at the same time, you have easy access to the center. So it's not going to be inexpensive to buy or rent a property in Verona, but there are areas of Italy where it's definitely more expensive.
So that's interesting also that you mentioned about, like I was talking about, these other places that we both touched on this actually, because you have the city center itself, and the city is broken up into a few pieces. Like you have these other neighborhoods that I mentioned, and a river that splits up in between them. So what also exists here is not just city or getting out of the city, but also fresh air from the river that's carried through. And you can feel it when you're walking around, that the air is maybe a little bit more fresh here than it might be in some other parts of even the same region of Italy. And on top, you're almost at the foothills of the Alps. I mean, like, it's very close by. But of course, talking about purchasing in Verona, how would it look in the country in general? What are things looking like in summer of 2024 when we're recording this?
So first of all, I think it's important to say that you don't have to be a resident of Italy to be able to purchase a property in Italy. So you can purchase as a non-resident and use your home just for vacation. Of course, if you wanted to reside in Italy for longer than 90 days, you would have to get a residency permit or a visa. But if you're just looking to buy for vacation, you're free to do so as long as there is reciprocity between your country and Italy in terms of being able to buy real estate in each respective country, which of course is the case regarding the US, but some Canadians, for example, might have a hard time or a harder time to buy property in Italy as non-residents because the Canadian government just put some restrictions for foreigners to be able to buy in Canada. And so, according to the reciprocity rule, it is now more challenging for Canadians to be able to buy in Italy without being residents. But with that being said, it is also possible to purchase a property without actually coming here to see the property, because you can engage an attorney or you can give power of attorney to somebody that you trust, and they can carry out the transaction for you on your behalf.
Such as, of course, ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com.
And regarding the actual purchase process, we have said it many times in our videos, there are 3 steps in the process. So the first one is to submit a proposal to the seller of the property that has a certain period of time to accept it. Once the proposal is accepted, then you can move on onto the preliminary agreement, which is not strictly necessary, though it's advisable to enter into a preliminary agreement. That gives you the time to do your due diligence between the preliminary agreement and the final contract of sale. And the contract of sale needs to be signed before a public notary. So it absolutely needs to happen that way. A public notary needs to certify the transaction. So you or the person who's acting on your behalf will need to show up at the notary's office to sign the contract of sale, and that's when you become the owner of the property.
Thank you, Marco, for sharing that. And of course, it's a lot of people around here, so trying to figure out how to film this has been a little bit of a challenge, but I think we should maybe show them what's over here on our side, which might be a little tough with how many people are around, but this is the Arena of Verona. What a sight. I mean, from Roman times, and it's still here being used on a very, very regular basis. I mean, even like I was here the other night and they were talking about like the intermissions and say, please come back to your seats. You can hear it from outside here. It's really an amazing place to be on this big square here. I'll turn the camera around again. Hopefully it's not too shaky, but you have restaurants all along here. It's just so festive and fun. I mean, it's not even a festive specifically time of year. It's just, this is what Verona is during the summer. I mean, down there you have the Porta Nuova, and then if you keep on going, you have the train station like Marco was talking about before. And that gives you not just access to other places here locally, but even internationally. You can take trains that take you to Switzerland, to Germany. You can get all around, all over the place. And then you have the international airport that's based here. That's really convenient to get to. There's a bus that goes from the train station. It's like, what, maybe 15, 20 minutes, something like that. I forget. It's been a long time since I last did it. But that's the great thing about a city like this, is that it's not just Italy at your fingertips, but kind of the rest of the world.
And since we are here in the Piazza, I think it's important to say that this is what life looks like in the daytime, but in the nighttime, it's the same. So, yeah. And it's something that is quite different from America, you know. You don't have this feeling of going out in the nighttime and having the same atmosphere that you have in the daytime.
Yeah, it's like being like in the afternoon. I mean, even here on this side over here, there's a little fountain, and you have people that just sit there until the late night, and you see kids playing around. I mean, Italy has its own feeling, its own vibe, its own nature that keeps it fresh, and especially this time of year when everything is so lively. And it's not just tourists that I'm hearing. Yes, I'm hearing a lot of English being spoken, a lot of German being spoken, and French, but I do even hear, unlike, say, comparing it to Venice again, I've been hearing people speaking in local dialect here, which I was very surprised about. But anyway, I think this is going to be a great place to round out this video. So thank you, Marco, for making yourself available for this episode. Of course, if anybody is looking to get in contact with you and your team, how can they get in contact with you guys?
People can contact us to our website, ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com, or give us a call. Our number is on the website.
And that's, of course, absolutely fantastic. And if you're interested in more episodes talking about Italy, life in Italy, be sure to check out the rest of our podcast, the Italian Real Estate Podcast, both on YouTube as well as the podcasting platforms of your choice, or you can also search on Google. But of course, if you subscribe to this YouTube channel, that means you're automatically subscribed to the Real Estate Podcast as well as the Italian Citizenship Podcast. And also, if you're interested in talks about life abroad and living abroad, be sure to come over and check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia. But of course, we have been here again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian from ItalianRealEstatelawyers.com. I'm Rafael Di Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you all next time. Later.
Thank you.
Ciao.